Now that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning has been out for a hot minute, I think it is perfectly fine to release this spoiler review. We're going to be going into the details here, so you have been warned. This review has all the spoilers. Furthermore, I would like to add one final note. I liked Dead Reckoning Part 1. I thought it was fun and entertaining. So, while I'm going to spend the rest of this video essentially criticizing the movie, these are basically small details that bothered me to some extent, but probably won't ruin the movie for you. Probably. The biggest downgrade of Reckoning Part 1 was the villain. In the past, the Mission Impossible movies have tended to alternate between villains who are dangerous because of their intellect or resources, or villains who are dangerous because of their physical capabilities. MI1, intellect. MI2, roller. MI3, resources. MI4, a bit of a hybrid, but the film's antagonist is more remembered for his final fight scene with Ethan than his grand evil scheme. MI5, intellect. MI6, John Locke was the brawler, while Lane was the intellect. Dead Reckoning repeats this version, with the intellect in question being the AI, the entity, while the entity's harbinger is the mysterious merc Gabriel. While the entity's status as a manipulator and schemer is built up fine, Isai Morales' Gabriel is hardly the most intimidating physical threat of the franchise. To be sure, Henry Cavill is a tough act to follow. Even not comparing the two, Morales' power as a brawler is somewhat lacking. He does kill Elsa Faust, which does build him up. Then Ethan manages to beat him up completely with minimal difficulty, which just makes Elsa look incompetent when we know she is not. Furthermore, I got the sense that the writers waffled on how much of a psychological threat he should be. To be honest, I think this movie would have worked better if he was the intelligence instead of the entity. As delightfully creepy as the entity is, Gabriel works better as the main driver. Somebody else, I don't know, Alan Ritchson probably, would have worked better as the muscle. Unless something really interesting happens in part 2, Gabriel will remain the partial waste of potential that he is. As good as a villain as Lane was, an antagonist with a personal vendetta against Ethan, somebody who knew him very well and knows how to, for lack of a better word, haunt him, would have been a really great and superior antagonist. This would have really elevated the film. Other minor issues I have include the editing. It doesn't stand out as a problem for the most part, but there's one glaring issue near the end. Paul Clementoff's Paris character is framed to be dead, but one semi-hard to hear line of dialogue indicates that she has survived, and I was confused to the point that I had to look it up and confirm that Clementoff's character is going to be part of the cast of Part 2. I wish that Reckoning 1 had made that a little more clear. Also, I noticed that Elsa, Benji, and Luther were left at the edges of this movie. Odd for such a long runtime that the film barely gave the co-stars any screen time. And yes, I do know that Tom Cruise is the star, and most people are going to see him. The Mission Impossible movies have always been team movies. It is one of the things that has made the Mission Impossible franchise stand out from the likes of the James Bond and Jason Bourne types. I certainly hope that Reckoning Part 2 features a wider team, but it doesn't seem likely, especially since Elsa is dead, Luther is going off grid, and new addition Grace will be working with Kittredge, and who knows where Clementoff's character is going. Such are my spoiler-esque thoughts on Dead Reckoning. Thanks for watching.